All right, so in this one, we are going to be creating a Flash message, which is similar to Django Contra messages, but this is going to be a little bit different because it's going to flash up the message saying we've added our item to cart, or in the cart, we've updated the cart. So we need to create that. Now to do this, we are going to be using Bootstrap's built-in alerts. So we're actually going to be doing this and just customizing it a little bit and adding some jQuery to give it some animation. So if this right here doesn't work for you on components alerts, this missable alerts, if this doesn't work, then that means your JavaScript is not working correctly. So make sure you double check that. But let's go ahead and test this out. First of all, on product detail, I'm just going to throw this in here, just paste it in right here, just so we can see this alert. And I'm going to change the alert styling of it to alert success, but I'm going to keep everything else. So let's go back into Bootstrap, our project, and we see this alert. Now you've probably seen these before, and it's fairly easy to do. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing, but instead of having it just show up here, it's going to like dynamically load in. So I want to actually update where it's located. So I'm going to go into inspect element here, and I'm going to add stuff to this class, but I don't know if I want to do it directly on the alert itself. Instead, I'm going to have it inside of a div. So I'll do div class equals to column small 3. And we'll close that off. And if I change that, notice how the div itself actually comes out. And then we can offset it even. So we'll do column small offset 8. Refresh that. It's going to go over here now. But it's not located exactly where I want it to be, so I'm going to add another div on the outside of this, and I'll give it div class of container, and we're going to close this off. And then I'm going to add my own in here, so I'll say container alert message or alert flash. So container alert flash. So that class is so we can do some customizing here. I'm going to go to inspect element on this alert, and go to my new div class and just click on this. And right off the bat, I'll add position equals to absolute. Now what this does is it puts it right where it needs to be. It's going to stick right there. So we could also use relative. That's a little bit different, but we're going to stay with absolute at this point. All right. And then I'll say top. Well, I want to see exactly how high up I want this to go. Right. So I'm going to just say 10 pixels. And then I'm going to give a z-index. And because it's right behind the nav bar, I'm going to give a z-index of a lot just to bring it above the nav bar. That's starting to look good. And then I also want to add a width in here. I'll just add 100%. That changes it quite a bit. And if I look in the element itself, I see what's going on here. And looking in the column, let's just add right of 0% and margin of 0 pixels. And that gives us a little bit better of a look for this alert itself. And that is what we're going to go off of. So this is going to be the new class that we just created, which was container alert flash. So we'll make it up here and we'll add style tags here. So style and then block style. In block, close off that style tag, paste this in here inside of, we want to use container alert flash. So dot container dash alert dash flash, curly brackets, and we put all that information in. And if we refresh, now we've got that container alert looking decent, which is pretty cool. So now, how do we do this using jQuery? Well, there's a few things that I first want to do, and this alert, I don't want it to show up all the time, right? I actually don't really even want it there. So I'll just say display equals to none, and that display, it now goes away, but it's still on this page, right? So the text is still being loaded. So I'm actually going to cut this out, and I'm going to create a new template, and I'm going to save it as alert.html. You won't have to replace yours, but we'll paste this in here. And what I want to do is, since I'm going to be calling this with jQuery, I'm going to change all of the double quotes to single quotes. And you'll see why in just a moment what happens when you don't do that. And we can actually do a find and replace. So we'll find double quotes, and we'll replace it with single quotes, and we'll replace all. There we go. So now it's replaced all of them. So if we go back into our product detail, what I now want to do is inside of this success function, we want to actually show this message. But we want to do it in a way that's fairly intuitive. So first off, I'll just test it out by just adding the message in. So first off, I'll do var template equals to, and we put double quotes here. I'll just do include. This is all Django here, alert.html. So this is the include.html template. So what it's doing here is it's going to render this template or this include tag as a string that turns into a variable for jQuery. And we can see that by console.log template. So we'll see what happens there. So let's do that. I'll refresh here, and I'm going to add the product. Remember, we're adding the product here. So hit add to cart, and it looks like we might have had an error. So let's go into inspect element, and we have unexpected token illegal. So if we click on this, we see, oh no, our template actually does come through, but it's kind of on different lines and all this stuff's happening. So whenever you do something like this in jQuery, you actually have to get rid of all of the spacing in between all these elements. So if I get rid of the spacing, it's going to drastically change how it's being rendered. All right, so let's get all the spacing out. Every last bit. There we go. We save it. Refresh in here. Go into the console. I don't see that error. If I hit add to cart, it now shows me it all escaped. So there's actually nothing inside of that template. So now that is actually working as far as the template is concerned. So back into the product detail. Since we now have this, we can add this template into the body. So let's just do body.append template. So now if I refresh and hit add to cart, we should see that this is coming through. Let's try that again. And it might be in there, but if you remember back, we did display as none. So let's get rid of that display as none just so we can see it working. And I hit add, it actually shows up. Cool. So going back down here, since we do want it to just fade in, we'll keep display being none. And then we'll use the $ of container-alert-flash, which of course is the name of the class that we're using. And let's make sure we spell it correctly. And then we'll do fade in and try that again. Add to cart. It fades in. Cool. So we also want it to fade out after a certain amount of time. So there's a couple ways that you could do this, but I'm going to show you one called set timeout. And this we allow a function to happen inside of here, and then we can do it after a certain amount of time, which I'm going to do it after 1 second is 1,000, so that's 1,000 milliseconds. So I'll do 1,800. And then in here, we'll just get that container and fade it out. So we use the set timeout function, refresh, and add to cart. It's there, and then it goes away. Perfect. So that's a great Flash message. Well, it's not so great. There's a few things that are wrong with it. First of all, the message itself, we can't customize as we have it here. And also, we might want to use this show Flash message somewhere else. So let's make a reusable function, just like what we did with set price. And I'll do function, and I'll call it show Flash message. And I'll let it pass through the message itself. And this function is going to be exactly all of this stuff. So I'm going to cut this out, paste this in here. And we don't need the console log anymore. So down here, I'll do show flash message, and I'll give some message. So some message. Well, in this case, it'll be product added. So we'll just say product added. All right, so we refresh in here, and we hit. It does show the Flash message, but it doesn't show the message that we actually passed. So to do this, we can go back into our alert and change all of this stuff into a template variable. let's just call it message. And now back into product detail. In our template, we can do with message equals to single quotes twice, and then double quotes to add it into jQuery. So what this is doing right here is just replacing this whole thing as that. And once it's rendered, this will actually work out just fine. All right, so if we refresh and hit add to cart, it now says product added, and then it goes away. But they can also close it out if they really want. Should go a little faster than that, but it didn't actually close out. There it goes. All right, so now we can do that. And since we have this show flash message function and this class stuff, we actually need to move this into their own files so we can use this anywhere we'd like. So now let's go into our static and pro inside of CSS and custom CSS. I'm going to go ahead and cut this container alert flash and put it into custom CSS. Save that, and then get rid of this block stuff here. And then also I want to go into my JavaScript and add a new file in here called custom.js. And we're going to go back into product detail and grab that flash message and cut it out. Save it, and then go into custom.js and just save it in there. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and do Python manage.py collect static, since we updated our static files. We'll say yes, and then we'll run the server again. And now we need to actually have this custom.js inside of our project, so we'll go to base.html, and actually we'll use javascript.html. And we're going to copy this last line here, just paste right underneath it, and now it's going to be custom.css. All right. So let's go back into this custom CSS and see kind of what's going on here. Unfortunately, this template tag is no longer going to work. And that's because, well, it doesn't make sense anymore. It used to make sense because it was actually being rendered in a Django template, but now it's not being rendered in a Django template, so we can't do this. The reason I showed you is to show you that it can be done, but in this case it can't be. Because it's outside of the Django project now, but it can be done inside of the Django project, which is one of the benefits to using block jQuery. But since we want to use it in many places, it's much better to put it in a custom CSS file like this, or excuse me, custom JS file like this. So let's go ahead and just have that template come through manually. So I'm going to copy this alert, copy that entire thing, and go back into custom.js and paste this whole thing in here. And we're going to put a closing quote here, put plus message, put another one plus, there we go. And if we separate it out, let's go back into our project, refresh, go into our console. We have no errors here. So if I wanted to add on and make it a little bit easier to read, I can just add these pluses with the quotes to separate the lines a little bit. All right, so now we've got our div template here. So let's go back into our project, refresh, and let's change something, hit add to cart, and now we see that flash message coming up. Cool. So since we have that, let's go into our product detail and, or excuse me, we want to go into our cart view. So now with the cart view, if something's updated, we will also say show, and what do we call it? Let's go back into our product detail, or the custom.js, show flash message. So we go to show flash message and cart updated. All right, so let's test that out. Go into the cart and update the cart, and we see cart updated, and it goes away. Perfect. So those flash messages actually work. All right, so in the next one, we actually want to have proper messages to show up on these show flash message. So if you have any questions on how we did all this stuff, let us know. And yeah, if you have any feedback on all of these functions too, let us know. We will see you in the next one.